Hey everybody, Riot Mort here with the patch 14.19 rundown. Sorry it's a little late. I'm doing this from the Riot campus, hiding in a secret little room, making sure you guys get this. But yeah, so patch 14.18 was our big rework. Some things landed pretty well, some things did not, some balance a little off. Certainly we've seen it being a very fairy meta, but we have some changes here. Generally, it's going to be small patches from here on out, so don't expect any like crazy reworks or big things like that. This is mostly just focused on balance changes, trying to get the meta into the best spot it can as we enter the back half of the set. So let's jump right in. On the trait side, Fairy definitely being a big thing that we've got to look at here. Basically, the crown is going to be hit pretty hard here. The crown, the healing and shielding that it amps up is going to go from 35% to 25%. And then the amount of healing that you get from the queen is going to go from 15% to 12%. Hopefully, this brings down the power of how much that Callista is keeping the Rakan alive. And so hopefully that gets Fairy in a better spot. Frost, we're going to be making the Frost explosions do a bit less base damage. This is a bit of a nerf to 7 and 9. But we don't really want to nerf 9. This is mostly focused around 7 Frost. So 9 is going to get 10 more AD and AP to sort of help it get to that point first. So 90 AD and AP at 9 should keep 9 Frost pretty good. But again, this is mostly focused around nerfing 7 Frost. On the Honeymancy side, it's pretty close here, but we're nerfing the damage dealt from 3 Honeymancy, but actually buffing it at 7, but specifically the damage done, but nerfing the damage taken at 7. So this is less, your blitz, your very tanky blitz just doing a ton of damage by standing there. So you're going to get less damage from just standing there and more damage from damage done. Overall, very slight nerf to 3. Should be power neutral to slight nerf to 7 is the goal. All right, Mage 10, pretty happy with this. Fun new Prismatic. Can still be a little more powerful, so we're amping up the damage they do all the way up to 200%. So 10 Mage, if you hit it, should be very strong. Sugarcraft, definitely in a rough spot right now on live. You're going to see some other changes to the champions as well, so we didn't want to overbuff the trait, but for now it's going to get 50 of its HP back at 6. So if you get 6 Sugarcraft, that extra HP should help them stay alive. Warrior, this is the 4-piece damage amp and Omnivamp will go from 18% to 20%. There's some other changes with Warriors as well, so bear with me here, but small buff to just the 4-piece of the trait. And then Eldridge. Eldridge is going to get some generally meant to be buffs here. The 3-piece is going to be doing a little more base AD, but less spell damage. And then the HP will scale up. So basically 3-piece should be better in the early game, especially just kind of being a health sponge. The 5-piece is getting its health up at pretty much every stage, but especially in 4 and 5. 5 and 6. So that's going to be a pretty big Eldridge. And then the 7 is going to be having more damage and then more late game scaling as well. So overall, hoping to get Eldridge to be a better trait. All right, on the champion side, Seraphine and Soraka have been the 2 worst 1 costs. They're both mages. Poor Seraphine, she's even part of Fairy, but right now Fairy kind of being propped up by the Callista and Rakan. So Seraphine's going to get some more damage so that she can, spike that backline and do more there. Soraka's going to be able to cast more often. This is a pretty big buff for Soraka, so hopefully this helps both Sugarcraft and Mage in the early game, so you can play her. And she was already, can do okay, but fell off really quick, so we'll see if this makes a difference. Twitch, not really a change, just changing its class to attack caster. Mostly affects things like recommended items and lucky gloves. Ziggs, very small 5% nerf here. It's just going to lose that little bit of damage here because Ziggs kind of being one of the best 1 costs and having good traits as well. So small nerf to Ziggs. Ari, very tiny buff here. She's just going to get a little bit more of that Foxfire ability damage. So, little bit there. Nothing too crazy. Yes, I said the line. Akali really kind of struggles. And we also are going to see some multicasters got some other nerfs coming up here. That's a pretty important one. But Akali in the early game really struggles to get those pyro stacks. So it's going to get a buff to her kunai damage to hopefully help out. Neela 3 has fallen off, just not really worth the payoff. So Neela 3's spell is going to hit a little harder. And then Syndra, obviously we got to be careful we don't end up in the first world. Not that we ever will, since The big thing was the attack speed nerf, but giving her a bit of her spell damage back and her spell AoE damage back at base, so she's not quite as weak in the early game. And remember, these are combined with the Eldritch changes, so hopefully Eldritch Syndra can have a place in the meta. Ezreal kind of carrying the blaster comp a bit, doing pretty well here, although that's mostly shifted to Varus at this point. But Ezreal hits pretty hard as well, so going to lose 5 AD. Remember, that's base AD, so that's spell, everything else. About an 8% nerf. Hecarim, the beast of 3 costs, is going to get a nerf here. So Hecarim going to be doing a lot less cleave damage here, going from 140 to 125 at 1 and 2 star. So hopefully a Hecarim 2 doesn't just carry you throughout the entire game anymore. Jinx gets a small buff. Jinx is going to go from 100% AD during her spell to 110%. So during that spell, that should hit a bit harder. Again, Sugarcraft getting Soraka and Jinx, and one more you'll see later. Katarina gets a bit of a nerf here. Katarina surprisingly good in the mid game. And again, she's getting her damage nerf, but Warrior's getting buffed a bit. So hopefully that helps put Katarina in about the same spot. Generally pretty fair here. Veigar 3 has kind of fallen off a bit, so Veigar 3's damage is going to kind of go back to what it was in 14-17. So if you're a mage fan or like that Veigar Vex comp, this should help. Remember, he did have the mana items nerfed since back then, so hopefully not quite as strong as before, but again, hopefully playable. And then Wukong is going to start off with 5 more armor and MR on his passive. That should put Wukong in the early game especially, even better than he is right now. Still not going to hit that same height that he was when it was Wukong 3, but, should help a bit. Okay, Gwen. Gwen, we shipped an update to the dash logic and pretty clearly was not liked by the majority, and I think it's appropriate. Giovanni and I talked about this, and the big thing that we think was a miss here was it really changed how you played the champion, which we really shouldn't be doing mid-set. Bloodthirster became a bad item on her because she played so safe. So we're not changing it back fully, but it should be a big improvement here because now Gwen will dash to the hex that would hit the most total targets first. So she's going to be aggressive. She's going to try to hit the most targets while still aimed at her current target. And then if there's a tie, we'll tie break to the hex distant from the most enemies. So again, she should be much more aggressive now. This should be more the Gwen you're used to. Blue buff, Bloodthirster, that kind of item should be good. If her current target is out of her base dash range of 3 hexes, she'll now dash the shortest distance to reach them rather than gaining infinite dash range. And again, just cleanup. Should be a big improvement, but keep us honest. If it's not, let us know. From what we tested, this is a buff pretty heavily, so we did nerf the snip damage a little bit to make up for it. But Gwen should be the Gwen you were used to with the aggro power. And that's it for 4 costs. On the 5 cost side, Briar, we fixed a bug for a long time where she was unstoppable in her frenzied form. That was never supposed to be the case, so that is a nerf to Briar. Briar will be less powerful. Morgana ended up doing a bit too much true damage. We're pretty happy with her power level, but when she does that much true damage, especially at 2-star, it's a bit much. So just having that happen a little less often. And then Nora is going to be able to cast more often as well. This is going to help, portal cap and mage cap at the absolute end game, so that if you get that Nora 2, she is a really strong carry. Now, again, in case you're wondering, I'm sure a lot of you are going, well, where's the Callista or Rakan changes? Again, the hope here is that the Queen Fairy change kind of deals with that and covers most of that. If not, we'll continue further. On the item side, mostly Radiant and support stuff here. The support item, Moonstone Renewer, a little too strong early and late, honestly, so getting nerfed. And then on the Radiant side, Demon Slayer, Equinox, Rosethorn Vest, Sunlight Cape, and Willbreaker, all getting various buffs, kind of the weakest Radiant items right now. So making sure that they get their quality and get them back up. Sort of incorrectly nerfed previously, so hopefully this makes them desirable again. On the Augment side, Flexible, we fixed a pretty bad bug with Flexible, which is that it didn't used to grant the health on away boards. That's been fixed, but obviously that's going to make it more powerful. So we did nerf the HP per emblem from 40 to 30. On the hero augment side, definitely nerfed them pretty hard. A lot of them went down in power pretty heavily. So high horsepower is going to get a small buff in between where it was and now. Spider Queen, same thing. And Witchy Wallop, same thing. So all of those hero augments Going to get a little bit of, not quite where they were before, but hopefully bringing them back up slowly. Item ladder has been re-enabled. That's a fun augment. I like that one. So hopefully the bugs with that have been fixed. Pillar of Flame gets a buff, and it looks like a small buff, but bear with me when we get to the bug section. You'll see that Pillar of Flame is getting even more help. But we also don't want to go too crazy and have it be an S tier augment, so got to be cautious here. Royal Guard, this augment has been good even when Fairy was not, so now that Fairy is, it's very, very good, so nerfing that down to 1%. Winter is coming, very good Winter Frost augment, so that's getting nerfed. The health and attack speed go down. And then Zap Attack will now get the Zap every 5 seconds instead of every 4, so a small nerf for Zap Attack. Those Blitzcranks do a lot of damage. On the charm side, quite a bit here. We have 2 new charms, pretty basic ones. The first one is Conjure Support. Gain a support anvil for 25 gold. A little expensive, but if you can afford it, that's some permanent power for your board and doesn't require a Zareth. And then Study Hard, which costs 1 gold. Really good on stage 3 and 4. You'll gain 2 XP for each Study Hard you've bought this game. So if you can manage to buy like 3 of them, you can get 6 XP, which is a pretty good boost. On the removal side, Desperate Plea, we tried it, we removed it, we tried it again a different way. This design space isn't working. We're just going to remove it. It will not be back this set. You know, for those of you that were able to cheat a placement or 2 with it, grats, it's gone for now. And then finally, Conjure Pan and Conjure Spatula in the charm space. We're still seeing a bit too many emblems than what we'd like, and so having them here where you can sort of guarantee and play around it is a bit much. So we are going to remove these charms for now as we enter the back half of the set, leading you to have to get them from something like Conjure Emblem, or specifically, you know, from carousel drops and orb drops and stuff like that. But this will lower the amount of emblems that we're seeing in the game. Of all the new charms, most of them landed in a pretty good spot, but Tremors in particular ended up being a bit more powerful than we'd hoped. I think at this point, Tremors is even better than the Dragon. So instead of every 8 seconds, it's going to be every 10 seconds. This will be a nerf to Tremors. And then Lightning Strike and Meteor Storm have been enabled. Those were the cause of the bugs that happened at the start of the patch. You never expect where those bugs are going to be, but those are back. And then finally, bug fixes. As you can see, we spent some time focusing on this. Akali now uses her attacks enhanced properly when equipped with Runon's Hurricane and Hextech Gunblade. Briar we already talked about here. Pillar of Flame will now cast at a further range target if no targets are in range, instead of casting near himself. That was a pretty bad bug. Fixed a bug where Pillar of Flame's augment would function inconsistently on away boards. So yeah, those 2 big bug fixes should hopefully help Pillar of Flame actually be playable. Yuumi now properly grants attack damage instead of AP to AD casters like Varus and Ezreal. Draconic Mastery no longer counts takedowns on PvE rounds. Fairy augments now correctly require the trait to be activated to be shown on 3-2 and 4-2. Pillar of Flame requires Bastion activated to appear on 3-2. Fixed a number of bugs around 4-star units. For those of you that were actually able to get a 4-star unit, you may have noticed you couldn't like item remove or place items on them. Those should be fixed. What the Forgan Anger issues will no longer transform Tactician, Shield, or Cape. Fixed a Stage 5 plus carousel that was incorrectly offering 3 Tactician's Crowns and 6 other non-Tactician's items. Now, as before, the only carousel with Tactician's items is all Tactician's items. Sorry about that. That was an issue with that carousel. Really annoying. The emblem variant for Arcana now counts Tactician's Cape and Shield twice, just like the Crown. Reforging a unit with all 3 different Tactician's items no longer returns nothing. Props to whoever found that one. Flexible, we already talked about. Wukong's shield duration with the spin to win augment is now correctly 2 seconds instead of 0.3 seconds. So hopefully this helps spin to win. If not, we'll buff it further. Mordekaiser with Mage Emblem is now monolocked for the correct duration. Sorry, can't abuse Mage Mordekaiser anymore. Fix some interactions between Overencumbered and the Polymorph Charm. Sorry, Dish Soap. And Jackshow the Protean tooltip now correctly indicates it gives 40 bonus AP in the back 2 rows. So there you go. Small patch, some good stuff. Hopefully fixes some bugs and balances it even further. And again, this is the kind of patches you can expect for the rest of the set. We'll probably keep adding a couple charms, making some adjustments. Let us know how this patch feels, and we'll continue on. The other big thing to call out is our set revival goes live this patch. So if you're looking to play You know, the set revival for 5.5. Make sure you check that out. Especially check out the ranked system it's kind of got. It's a different take on ranked. I'm pretty excited to try that out. So let us know what you think of that. Should make playing those set revivals a little more fun now that there's actually some goals to achieve. So yeah. All right, there you go. That's the patch 14.19 rundown. There you go. As always, let us know what you think. Give us feedback, and we'll keep going. Yeah. So I'm gonna get back to work because yeah, I'm here at the office. So all right, that's gonna do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.